If I can quickly just introduce myself. My name, as Shireen has said, my name is Dean Berndt, and I've been working with Monroe Actuary since 2011, so going on 10, 11 years now. And part of my focus at Monroe Actuaries has been on the reporting and the operational side of things. And also over the last 5 years, I've worked very closely with a group of IPs, specifically helping them on the numbers and quantification side of their reports. And that's very much where my passion lies, in providing them with training and almost informing them of the various details that we require when it comes to the quantification of claims. I know the many challenges that come with it.
Thanks, Dean. My name is Julie Valentini. I'm one of the actuaries at Monroe Forensic Actuaries. Just a bit about me. I've worked at Monroe for about 10 years. During that time, I've signed off literally thousands of reports. I've consulted with clients. I've testified regarding matters as well. However, my main focus at the moment is on product development. So keeping our products fresh and innovative. And I was part of the team that designed the actuarial calculation. So let's move on. Just a quick agenda. We're first going to just give you a few little background slides just to set the scene and just so we put the actuarial calculation in context. And then we'll dive straight into the demonstration. So those background slides will cover things like what is an actuarial calculation, which reports are eligible for it, who should use an actuarial calculation, is it actuarially sound, and then Dean will start talking about the earnings assistant, which is another platform that is used in the actuarial calculation. And then we'll dive into the demonstration. And then, as Shireen said, at the end, we will have a time for questions. So let's start with the background. What is an actuarial calculation? So very simply, it is just an actuarial report. The only difference to our normal standard actuarial reports is that it is cheaper and it is more efficient. And you might ask yourselves, why or how are we able to do that? And there's two main reasons. The first one is that we reference an earnings summary rather than a full industrial psychologist report. And secondly, we leverage technology. So just a bit more detail about those three issues. In terms of the cost of an actuarial calculation is 8,500 Rand per report, which is payable upfront. And contingency changes are free thereafter. So an unlimited number of them can be done. In terms of efficiency, the payment is done via PayFast, so it is immediate. And the report is then available within 2 business hours of payment. Also regarding efficiency, if you amend contingencies or apportionments, that updated report is available real time. In terms of the technology, the actuarial calculation has to be initiated, paid, and viewed on our Connect platform. And I think most of you should be familiar with what our Connect platform is, but it's basically our client portal. It's an online system where we interact with clients, where all your client documentation is available. You can instruct us. So it's really our online way of interacting with you. So in order to get these efficiencies and cheaper costs, we do require that this actuarial calculation is done via the Connect platform. Unfortunately, you cannot phone in and ask for this report except by using the Connect platform. The other bit of technology that is required is the earnings assistant. Now, this is the platform that is used by the industrial psychologists, and they will enter the earnings summary, which is really the numbers that come out of their report that we as actuaries look for. So Dean will talk to this more, but there is a move towards including a quantification table within an industrial psychologist report. And the earnings assistant is a platform that enables them to do that. And we require that to be entered in order to get an actuarial calculation. So you will see this in detail as we go through the demonstration. So you might be wondering which reports are eligible for this actuarial calculation. So at this stage, it's only loss of earnings. And we also limit it to what we're calling the uncomplicated reports. And what we mean by uncomplicated is that it's one scenario, so one set of uninjured and injured earnings progressions. No fringe benefits. And by fringe benefits, we mean the additional benefits that someone might earn on top of their basic. So typically someone working at a corporate might get, 13th check, allowances, pension. So all of that does make the analysis more complicated. So because the actuarial calculation is a quick, cheaper, more efficient report, we don't allow it for the ones where we need to do a more complicated payslip analysis. And then thirdly, local earnings only. So if you have a claimant that has foreign earnings, that also needs more analysis in terms of exchange rates, etc. So that isn't eligible. So really to summarize it, it's the reports that don't require advanced actuarial insight. And what do you mean, or what do we mean by advanced actuarial insight? It's basically the time that we would spend analyzing all the inputs and the information sent through to us in a lot more detail. And that typically is for people in corporates where we might get sent a whole lot of payslips or RP5s, and we actually need to dive into quite a lot of detail to identify what is a typical earning scenario for this person. So so it's not for those. It's for those that are a bit simpler. And you might be wondering what kinds of claimants typically have those scenarios. And in our experience, it does tend to be minors, so meaning children, not gold miners. But so often industrial psychologists will propose quite simplified earnings progressions for minors, possibly going from a Patterson, I'm just giving an example, Patterson B3 ending at Patterson C5. So that is a total package figure. There's no benefits added on top of that. So that is perfect for this tool. Another example is non-corporate workers, for example, semi-skilled or unskilled workers where they have fewer benefits or no benefits on top of their basic. So those are the reports which are generally eligible for an actuarial calculation. So you might be wondering, okay, is this right for me? Should I use it as an attorney? So we find typically attorneys who are interested in keeping their costs low, it's attractive for them. Attorneys who have a lot of claimants in the non-corporate sector or who are minors. And obviously attorneys who are open to using new technology, because you need to be using our Connect platform. So obviously, if you are completely averse to doing anything on the computer, this will be more challenging. But hopefully you'll see in this demonstration that it's quite a straightforward process. We're hoping it explains it to you as you go along. And we do always have people that can help you in that journey as well. So I just would like to talk a little bit about the quality of the reports, because some of you might be thinking, if it's so cheap and so quick, how do I know it's of the same quality? Is it really actuarially sound? And our answer is a resounding yes. And the reason for that is that it uses the same calculation engine, the same actuarial assumptions and methodology, and it is signed by the actuaries. So the real engine of the numbers is exactly the same as the engine we would use if we did our full reports. So yes, it is as actuarially sound as all our other reports. And because of that, it's therefore perfect to be used in pre-trial submissions or settlement negotiations or default judgment applications via affidavits. And we've already done a number that have been used for these purposes. You might be wondering about courts, and can an actuarial calculation be used for court purposes? Typically, we find that attorneys like to discuss the court case with us before going to court, and often attorneys feel more comfortable if we have seen the entire industrial psychologist report and can testify on that. So if that were the case, we would then ask you to upgrade the report to a full report so that we do put in that additional actuarial analysis and can then testify we've seen the whole IP report. But just to put your mind at ease, if you did need to upgrade to a full report, you're not charged the cost of another full report. You just charge that small extra amount to bring the total cost to the cost of a full report. So what you paid for an actuarial calculation plus the little upgrade cost would be the cost of a normal full report. So you're not going to end up paying more. Okay, so now I'd like to hand over to Dean to just give you a brief background on the earnings assistance.
Great, thanks, Julie. So why did we create tea? Other than great for dunking rusks in, it's a good piece of technology. And as Julie had alluded to earlier, at Monroe, we're constantly looking at ways in bringing innovation and technology into our own practice, where we can look to improve the level of service that our clients and hopefully the industry receives, as a whole, so saving costs and time. Now, it's not purely altruistic. There is a business case for it. And just looking into our own business or our own reporting efficiencies, we estimated that up to 65% of the IP reports from which we extract information to do our calculations couldn't immediately and accurately be used to quantify claims. Now, what that means is that more than half, or 65, so a large proportion of the IP reports we receive have gaps in information that we then either need to make an assumption ourselves, or we need to put the case on hold and bounce it back, to yourself as the attorney or to the IP to clarify. Now, this obviously costs time and money. And every time we, want to bypass, let's say, the delay of putting it, sending it back to the IP, we could then make an assumption. However, every assumption that we make almost exposes a risk of misinterpreting what the IP's original intention is. So what we're saying there is that 65% of the reports, we are introducing an element of risk where we can misinterpret, the IP, what it is they're wanting to say, which then puts a risk on you as the attorney for over or under compensation towards the claimant. What is good, however, is that over the past couple of years, we've been working quite closely with IPs and some of the formal bodies, SIOPSA, SUMLA, to try and improve this situation. And it is positive that 65% from a couple of years ago has improved. So the amount of unclear reports has reduced from 65% to around about 50% right now, which is, as I said, positive. However, there's still quite a bit of work to be done, and that's something that we're actively working on, and that's something that we're hoping the earnings assistant will help to further improve. Okay, well, what is the earnings assistant? So it's a free-to-use platform for IPs that enables them to convert the narrative or the detail of the case into a logical basis for calculation. So it allows them to compare different income streams and add fringe benefits, which usually have quite a big implication on the claim. And it provides them with a graphical overview of what it is that they're saying, which ultimately gives them a logic check of whether what they're putting in is reasonable or not. And I think most importantly, there is a printable quantification summary, as Julie mentioned earlier, that they can get for free from the system and attach it to their reports. And that's ultimately what we would use as the actuaries. And that digital summary is ultimately what gets used in the actuarial calculation process. Okay, just some benefits to the IP that the earnings assistant offers. I think most importantly, it's free to use. The only cost is that of learning the technology for the IP, and we offer free training, and we try and make it as easy to uptake as possible. The quantification summary and the principles are aligned with the recently drafted SIOPSA professional practice guideline. And that basically is a standard that sets out, best practice for IPs in the medical legal industry. And I think most importantly, one of the best practices is that they are saying that a quantification summary is essential. And that's something that we're excited about. And, we had a bit of input in that guideline. Another one is it lays out to the IP what the needs of the actuary is. So all the details that we need to do to take into account to quantify the claim, it's very clear what is required. There's also a library on the platform which takes into account various commonly asked questions and topics like contingencies, government workers, etc. We've got some training there. Embedded in the platform is inflationary calculations. So, they don't need to do those, which can often get complicated. There's also additional actuarial insights there. So if there's something that's unusual from a number side of things, we've built it in that it will automatically flag it to the user. And hopefully it will also allow the IPs to do joint minutes a lot quicker because it's a lot clearer. what what each of the IPs are saying in their report. Because they've got the table, it will enable quicker joint minutes for the IPs, and I think that'll be a benefit for you as well as the attorneys. And then just quickly, some benefits to the attorneys. It gives you access to cheaper reports, which we will demonstrate, the actuarial calculation. It allows for faster turnaround time, and hopefully fewer amendments needed if all the details are put quite clearly initially. It gives you assistance with contingency negotiations, and it enables you to easily understand what the nature of the loss is, which will hopefully enable fairer settlements, for you and the claimants in general.
Okay, thanks, Dean. So that was just a quick whirlwind background, just to give you some context. We'll now dive into the demonstration. So we're going to actually show you, it's not the live system, it's our demo system. So just bear with me while I switch off here. Okay, so this is basically, this hopefully looks familiar to some of you, but I'm basically logged in under my own name, Julie Valentini. I'm acting as an attorney here. So this is what you as the attorneys should see when you log into Connect. This is your Connect portal. So just for the purposes of this demonstration, Dean is going to be the IP who's going to complete the earnings summary. I'm going to be the attorney. So for all the IPs in the room, if you can align yourselves with Dean and what he's doing, and the attorneys, if you follow what I'm doing, that is what you would need to do. So you'll notice in the menu here, in this on the left-hand side, there is an actuarial calculation link. Also, if you're on the home page, you'll notice there's an actuarial calculation block. So either of those will take you to this home page of actuarial calculations. And I won't go through the detail of this now. I might go through it a little later. But basically, if you want to start a new actuarial calculation, this is the button to press where it says start. So it just gives you detail, and I'll go through those later in the demonstration. So let's press start. What it does is it just gives you 3 reminders about the actuarial calculation, just what the cost is, that it's upfront payment, and that not all matters are eligible. Like if they are more complicated, you might have to upgrade. So just to remind you, so you don't get halfway down the process and then realize, oh, you actually wanted a full report. So you just acknowledge and then press start. And now the actuarial calculation is really broken up into 4 steps, which we've tried to illustrate for you at the top here. So the first step is to initiate the instruction. The second one is to confirm the details. The third one is to pay. And the fourth one is to view the report. So we're now in the initiate stage. So the first important decision you need to make is who is going to complete this earnings summary. So as we alluded to earlier, the earnings summary is that summary of the uninjured and injured progressions that really will drive the calculation. So typically it's the industrial psychologists that would complete it. However, you as the attorney, if you feel confident, you've got the industrial psychologist report, you might feel confident that you can extract the numbers out of it and put it in a table. And we have had people do that. But typically, people would choose that the earnings summary is completed by the industrial psychologist. So you tick that option. And you then need to enter the name of your industrial psychologist. So for these purposes, I'm using Dean. He will be the IP. And you then need to put in their email address. And please just make sure you get it correct, because it will notify the IP using that email address. So once you say continue, it's locked those details in. And now you just need to enter some general information about the case. So if you have a reference number, you enter it there. You need to say, is it a RAF matter? Yes or no? I'll just say yes for this. You might have a RAF reference number or a link number. If you don't, that's fine. You can enter it later, but you might want to capture it now if you have it. You then need to enter the claimant's name, and then the claimant's gender, the claimant's date of birth. So let me just enter a random date of birth. And there is some validation to make sure that you are entering something that's valid. And then the date of the accident. So these fields, these 4 fields in particular, are very important to get right at this stage, because you can't change them later. So the reason is, if you're changing the date of birth, it can have a big impact on the earnings summary that the industrial psychologist would propose. If someone's age 35 now, the earnings progression is probably going to be quite different to if they're 55. So that has to be correct at the stage and cannot be changed. So just make sure when you enter it, you are entering the correct details. Date of calculation, you can leave it at our default date of calculation unless you have a specific date you'd like. And then apportionment, if you know of any apportionment at this stage, you're welcome to add it, but these two can be changed at a later stage. So basically that's the general information that needs to be added. You then just say, yes, I confirm it's correct, and you then initiate this instruction. So basically as the attorney now, you've done your part, you've initiated it. What is happening is now the industrial psychologist is going to get informed. So I'm now going to hand over to Dean, who will show you what the industrial psychologist will now see.
Thank you, Julie. You can see here, I've shared my screen where I have got my email. I'm avidly looking at my email, and there is an email that's come in from Monroe Forensic Actuaries. And I can quickly just look at that there's been a new earnings summary requested, and it gives me a 3-step guide on as to what to do. I think initially, most importantly, it asks me to open this unique link. And let me just click on this link, and they'll just get this screen that basically just reiterates that I've been asked to input the earnings summary for Janet Doe. And I can either select an existing summary if I've already done the earnings summary online on the earnings assistant. However, in this case, I'm just going to create a new one from scratch. So I click the create from scratch button, and it will now take me into the earnings assistant platform. So this is very much what the industrial psychologist will be seeing, where the details of the case are on the dashboard here. And ultimately, as I had said at the start, what the role and what the system encourages the industrial psychologist to do is input the details that we require for the calculation. So I'm going to quickly skip over this and make it a very simple one, where in the injured income, I'm going to leave it as 0. So this claimant is unemployable. So there's 0 income here. And in the uninjured income, I'm just going to fill in and say the claimant was earning 25,000 Rand a month at the time of the accident. Let's hope we've obtained the collateral for that. And I'm going to say that by the age of 45, so age 45, they're going to be earning 50,000. And I'm going to make a mistake intentionally here. So instead of typing per month, I'm going to put per week, and then I'm going to add it. And as I said earlier, what the user gets is a visual overview of the input. So you can see here, it starts off, at the 25,000, and then it increases quite drastically. Once I'm done and I'm happy, I'm going to ignore the 50,000 per week. It then allows me to send it back to the attorney, which I'll do. And I can include a message if I want, but for now, I'm just going to sign it off and send this back to my instructing attorney. Back okay. To you, attorney.
Okay, thanks, Dean. So let me just take over the screen again. Okay, so as the attorney, I'm now watching my emails to see if anything's coming in, and we are using the same email box, which is why you'll see both. But I will get this one from the Connect portal saying that the earnings summary was started. So this I would have already got when Dean first started it. So at least I know, okay, he started work on it. Once he's finished it, which we saw he had done, I also get one saying earnings summary completed. So I know that my IP has now completed it, and I can now log back into the Collect portal. It gives me the link, and it then takes me to the step 2, where previously it said we're waiting for your IP. It now has actually brought through the earnings summary that the IP has produced, it has entered. And you'll see that this is exactly what Dean entered, the 25,000 per month, straight lining to the 50,000 per week. And as the attorney, I'm looking at it and going, sure, this person is obviously bound for big things if they're going to increase that much. One of the issues I have here is I've been asked to confirm that this insight. So this is one of the insights that the earnings assistant tool has generated, saying, please note that this implied rate of earnings progression between May 2020 and August 2030 is above the generally accepted increase rate. So it's kind of highlighting that this is quite a steep progression. It might be correct, in which case I'd be happy to just tick it and continue. But just for demonstration purposes, as the attorney, we're just going to show you if you have an issue with it or you'd like something updated, I'm going to show you how you do that. So in this case, I think there's an error or a problem. This shouldn't be per week. It looks too high. So I can request an update from the IP. So I'm not actually moving past step 2. I'm not confirming details yet. I'm actually going to request an update. So I can send a little message here to Dean, and I can say, please check the career ceiling. Sorry, let me type correctly. It looks very high. And I can send that back to him. So yes, I haven't confirmed the details. I'm not actually happy as the attorney at this stage, and I've now sent it back to Dean. So yes, over to you, IP.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Again, I'm clicking refresh on my email as one does nowadays, and I can see that this fresh email has come through from Julie asking me to update it, and there is the message that please check the career ceiling. It looks very high. So I'm going to very graciously follow this request and click on the link, which takes me back into this particular case. And if I scroll down, I'll look, okay, there was my input. It was 50,000 per week. As Julie said, there is an insight or pop-up that comes through that had informed them. So initially I must have overlooked that. But for now, I'm going to change that to per month. Hit save. And this graph should go down a little bit, look similar, but a little bit more reasonable. And then I'm going to send it back and type, thanks for the pickup to Julie. Again, very gracious. And I will send the updated report back through to Julie. And the amendment process is as easy as that.
Okay, thanks, Dean. So I will steal the screen again. And now it's my turn to be watching the email box. As the attorney, I'm waiting to see when this update has come through. So not yet. There we go. So the earnings summary. Dean has completed the earnings summary, and there's his message. Thanks for the pickup. So that's basically alerting me, okay, he has made a change. And if I click again, you can just refresh if you've got Connect open, but I'm just showing you how the link works. It takes us back to step 2. But what you'll notice now is there's 2 tabs at the top, and they've got a different timestamp. So this one was done 4 minutes ago. That was the first one. So that's the one that showed us 50,000 per week. The second one that has now come through is where it's been corrected to 50,000 per month. And now if I look further down the screen, I can see there's no insight that I have to confirm. There's nothing saying it was steeper than normal. So as the attorney, I feel more comfortable now. I'm happy with that earnings progression. And now I need to just confirm all the inputs to move to step 3. So the reference, we've already filled that in. You can change it if there's anything different. But I'm happy with all that. You can here change contingencies or apportionment if you'd like to, but you can also change it later. So you don't have to worry about those too much. The date of calculation, though, is now set here. So if you click over these little I buttons, it does tell you what will be changeable in future and this is the last time you can change it. So the date of calc, this is your last chance to change it. I'm happy with that. So I'm now going to move to step 3, which is now the payment screen. So I'm just going to click pay now. Basically, this is now the screen that is managed by PayFast. So it's actually going out of the Connect portal, and it's taking you to the PayFast portal itself. And that part is not managed by us. So the security and the firewalls and all the things that are built around PayFast are exactly the same. So you don't have to worry about the security. It's as paying on Takealot or any of those. It's the same process. Seems to be stuck talking to PayFast. It usually goes to this next screen a bit quicker than that. But this is a testing environment. So it's not the real PayFast. We do have like a testing sandbox environment where we can pay from. Okay, it seems to be stuck. There we go. Okay, so basically I'm just going to say complete payments, but it will look different on your side. So if you've ever used PayFast on any online purchases, it then gives you the option. Do you want to pay by EFT or by SnapScan, or you know, the various options that are available for different you know, different sites. So that's where you would choose Pay Now. It'll go through immediately then. This PayFast seems to be a bit slow today. It does depend on your internet connection as well. But yeah, this is where you don't want to close anything. Just let it do its thing. Okay, so the PayFast one has worked. It's now just talking back to Connect to tell Connect that the payment has been successful. And I just want to show you in the meantime, on your emails, you will get an email from PayFast. You can see that's come through saying that your actuarial calculation has been paid. And now you can see it has spoken to Connect and told Connect that the payment was successful. So that should be instant as PayFast is at the time, but generally it's within a minute, I would say, that the payment goes through. And the next step then is actually step 4, which is where you would view the actuarial calculation. So there was that button that says view, which you click on, which takes us to the step 4. And this is now really where the timer starts ticking. So our 2 business hour turnaround starts from the start of a business hour. So if everything that I've shown you, you can do at any time, 11 o'clock at night if you want, early in the morning. It doesn't have to be during business hours. But for our team to review it and just approve this report, obviously it's when our team is available. So at the moment that is during business hours. So you're welcome to get to the stage at midnight, but it'll be the next morning, 2 hours from when our team works. You will then get your report. And I just want to show you some other features while we're waiting for this to be approved. Let me just check. We've tried to speed it up in the background. Oh, okay. It looks like it is already. So I'll show you those features at the end. But I can see there's an email here. It's actually already been approved, which is wonderful. So I can log back in. And I'm now going to see the report in step 4. Okay, just waiting for Connect to realize. Here we go. So it's just loading up the report. But yeah, this is the final step. So here we go. This is the report. Those of you that are familiar with our reports, this should look very familiar. It looks just like our other reports. The information here, it said that it's based on the earnings summary completed by Dean on this date and verified by the attorney on this date. Okay, it happens to be the same date because we did it now. And then if there's anything about apportionment, the uninjured and injured earnings, no contingencies at this stage, and then the graph, which will match pretty much to the graph that the industrial psychologists saw on the T platform. And then this is your loss. So this loss is a big one. It's actually capped. So it does the cap calculation. And then this is a bit about our assumptions and methodology. And then it actually includes that report, that earnings summary that the industrial psychologist did. And there are the actuary's signatures as well. So what you're able to do from this screen is you are able to save a copy of this report if you'd like. So if you click on this button on the right-hand side, from here you can save or print. If you're not familiar with this, print to PDF is basically the same as saving the PDF on your computer. You can choose to print to an actual printer though, as well, if you have one set up. And just remember, if you save to PDF, just click the background graphics. It doesn't always, it depends on your settings, but that should be clicked so you get the full report coming through. So yeah, so you're able to save it if you want to keep a copy. But I want to show you the exciting part here, which is changing the contingencies. So you might recall earlier on, I didn't choose any contingencies and I left the apportionment at 100%. If I click on this button, it takes me to this little contingency calculator screen. So here you are able to change contingencies and apportionment for free and get an updated report. So just for demo purposes, let's say our apportionment was actually 80%. And let's say we want to add on standard contingencies to this case of 5 and 15% on the uninjured. I'm not going to put any contingencies on the injured because the claimant is unemployable. So what it says to you, just this warning in red, it says changing these inputs will replace the current version of the report that you're seeing. So if you remember the report we saw in the previous screen, it's going to overwrite that. So if you want to keep a copy of that previous report without contingencies, you first need to go and save it, like I showed you. You can always remove them again and then see it without contingencies, but it's probably better to not create too many versions of the reports. So, you know, just save them as you go. But yes, I'm happy with that. So I tick yes, I'm happy with updating the version, and I click on update. So what it's doing now is it's actually sending the information to our calculation engine, and it's recalculating the loss, including the apportionment and the contingencies. And here's the new report. So you'll see that it now says after contingencies, the loss value is actually changed. You'll see in the apportionment section here, it says the defendant's liable for 80% of the losses. The contingencies section, we've now added in these contingencies. And then this is the revised loss, including the contingencies. And then the cap is also calculated, allowing for these new contingencies. So you don't need to get hold of us in the office to recalculate it, even if there's a cap. This will do it for you, even allowing for the RAF cap. And then the rest, yeah, the rest looks the same. So you can do that as many times as you like. If you're preparing for trial or for settlement negotiations, you can play around with contingencies as much as you want. And you'll notice the reference number at the top just has a B after it, because this is the second report. The third will have a C. So there is a unique identifier for each of them, just to keep track of the different versions you might be creating. But yeah, we find this is a really useful feature. And you can do this any time of the day. It doesn't require the team to be working. So you can do this at midnight as well, if you want. The other buttons, this is if you'd like to just give us some feedback on the actuarial calculation. This step here is if you would like to upgrade. So remember in the beginning when I spoke through which reports are eligible, you might, let's say at this stage, you actually find there's a pay slip and there's something more complicated regarding this person's earnings. You might say, okay, or you might be going to trial and you might want to actually upgrade to a full report. This is where you would do it. And if you click on this button, it then basically copies all the information that you've already entered. And you can then add in any further instructions, and you can include any attachments. So you could include pay slips or the full industrial psychologist reports or whatever other information you'd like to send us, and then click send. And it'll send us an email with all this information and whatever you've attached. And our accounts team will then get hold of you to just ask for the additional payment to upgrade it. And yeah, and then you'll be able to get the full report. So that's basically the process. Those 4 steps, it really is, if you just keep in your mind, it's those 4 steps. And it is actually quite straightforward. I think we've taken a bit longer here because we're showing you the different screens and explaining things along the way. But that's really what the process entails. And I just want to show you, if I go back to the actuarial calculation home screen, at the bottom here is where you've got a list of all the actuarial calculations that you've done. So I've just done various dummy ones. If you ever want to get back to where you were in the process for any of these reports, you just click on these 3 dots and it'll take you to the process you're at. So I did a few dummy ones here where I stopped at different stages. So what it does is it gives you the date in which you requested the earnings from the industrial psychologist. It then writes down the date of when the earnings summary was completed, and then the date that you paid and the date the report was delivered. So this report, for example, the industrial psychologist has completed the earnings, but we haven't paid. So if I had to click on this one, it will then take me to step 2 again, and I need to confirm this and then pay. So that's the stage that is in. So you don't lose any of the progress you've made along the way. You'll also notice these ones don't have a reference number from us yet because they haven't actually been delivered. Those reports, either the payments, this one, the payment's been made, but we haven't actually approved it yet. These ones are still waiting for the industrial psychologist or need to be paid for. So yeah, this is always your sort of dashboard of your actuarial calculations. And then just, this is where I just wanted to explain, if you ever forget the steps involved or you want to see a tutorial again, we have got various help items on this page. So there's a tutorial, which is pretty much what we've gone through now. There's also an explainer document that, again, just explains these 4 steps to you. So you're welcome to go through that. Frequently asked questions. And this is just a very brief summary, again, of what an actuarial calculation is. But please, at any time, if you need help, please feel free to phone in and ask. We're more than happy to take you through the process, get you sorted on Connect. If you're stuck at any point, please phone in and let us know. But we do feel this process can work for you in your business. You know, obviously, if you have the kind of reports that are eligible and you're willing to try this technology, we are confident that it can make a difference in your business.